Hi guys, it is Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in this video, I'm feeling kind of cheeky. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my top 5 villains in RPGs. Now this was a tough list to make, and there's definitely going to be a part 2 sometime in the future because there's just a lot of good villains. Now a few things to kind of let you guys know before we start the video. There will be spoilers, so I'm just warning you now. For each game, there will be a timestamp in the video, so if you don't want to get spoiled for one game, you can always skip around because I will leave timestamps for that. Alrighty, now on to the villains. Villains are often as important, if not more important, to the protagonist. Now these villains come in a whole variety of flavors that have their own backstories, motivations, and ambitions. I'm going to highlight some of these big villains, so without further ado, let's get into the list. The first one on this list is Xehanort from the Kingdom Hearts series. Xehanort is in charge of everything that happens in Kingdom Hearts, so much so that the previous trilogy was called the Xehanort trilogy. Editing Mandy here, I meant the Xehanort saga, not trilogy. So this guy was puppeting people way before we knew he was a villain or a character at that. Now Xehanort did not make his appearance in the first game, but he was still involved in the events of the first game. He got name dropped in Kingdom Hearts 2, but he didn't get a character until Birth by Sleep. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts stories are a bit convoluted, so bear with me. And his biggest role has to be in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and Kingdom Hearts 3. So for his skill sets, Xehanort is a very manipulative person to further his own goals. You know, your typical puppeteer villain. But that's just one of the few things that he has. Also, this old man is very smart. He knows how to play the 4D chess game really well. He is also shown to be very patient when it comes to enacting his plans. Now, patience is not a characteristic that's bad. It's actually very good. But in Xehanort's case, he's willing to play the long game. So for the events of Kingdom Hearts, Xehanort is a very cruel, wicked, manipulative old man who is just obsessed with knowledge and his pursuit of what he thinks is good. Just doing his things behind the scenes with his freakishly hands. He does this a lot, or this. He does a lot of these wiggles. It just annoys me because his fingers are so long and he does this a lot. Now, Xehanort was not always like this. In the events of Dark Road, which is a spin-off of Kingdom Hearts for the mobile game. No, I didn't play it. Yes, I watched the cutscenes. No shame. We learned that Xehanort was actually a good person. He loved his friends, wanted to work hard and save people from darkness, but somewhere along the road, his warped vision of what darkness is and how it should be fixed is what ultimately made him a villain, going as far as to do very heinous things in all the Kingdom Hearts games. Like I said before, this dude got fingers on all the games. I would like to say Terra and Ventus suffered the most at the hands of Xehanort, and for Terra, he literally took over his body. He also wants to enact a Keyblade War in order to get the X key, which is basically a MacGuffin in Kingdom Hearts. I'm not going to really explain this in this video, but the fact that he wanted to start a war for a Keyblade is pretty evil and pretty wild. And this is where his patience and ability to play a 4D chess game come in hand because he literally made different vessels of himself. I'm not going to go into detail how that happened because honestly, I don't really know, but it's a long story. He went to the past, to the future, got bodies here, got bodies there, norted a couple of people, manipulated them. So this dude is very schemy. And he always seems like he's one step ahead of our protagonist. So I put Xehanort on this list because he is a master puppeteer of fate, of people's feelings, all coupled with his warped intentions of doing good, when in reality he's not really doing good. He thinks he's doing good. And that's very dangerous when it comes to villains. And it took the combined effort of around 6 or 7 games to take this guy down. And the perfect saying to sum up Xehanort is, hell is paved by good intentions. He started with good intentions, but then it got warped. And it's up to our heroes to confront him, slap him around, and tell him he's wrong. So next on the list is Lusamine from Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now Lusamine has to be the most dynamic villain in Pokemon history, right next to N. So Lusamine is not just cartoonishly evil or cartoonishly good. She is a case of a tragic backstory taking effect. And this is not me trying to defend or justify her actions. What caused her descent to madness was pretty much grief and unfortunate encounters. So in Pokemon Sun and Moon, it was stated that she lost her husband during an experiment in a ultra wormhole. So with his demise, Lusamine continues the research into ultra wormholes, where she encounters Nihilego. And yes, that took me a lot of takes to pronounce. Nihilego is one of the many ultra beasts, but this one has deadly neurotoxins. This neurotoxin removes all inhibition and affects your behavior, which is what caused Lusamine to obsess over the ultra beast throughout the whole game. Now you might think that, oh, she was controlled by something else, so she can't be considered a villain, but I feel like she did have some say in her fate, because there's multiple times in the game where she could have stopped, she could have asked for help. So while I do think that the neurotoxins did play a role in her descent into madness, I don't think it's an excuse to how bad she treated her children and everybody else in the region with her lunatic projects and stuff. And all this stuff in her life does force her to focus less on her kids, which is sad because they are the only family that she has. And they are a combination of her and her husband, so you would think that she would hold them closer, but oddly enough, she pushes them away. She even stated that her kids are ugly compared to the Ultra Beast, which she deems as beautiful. It is also heavily assumed that Lusamine dressed Lily in the likeness of Nihilego, and while Lily is adorable, her outfit does look a lot like the Ultra Beast Pokemon. Her flavor of villainous is mind games and manipulation. Though she doesn't have destructive tendencies, she is very dangerous because she is willing to go above and beyond to have her goals fulfilled. And to add more insult, she cryogenically freezes her Pokemon that she loved to keep them safe even though they're frozen. Once a character hurts an animal, or a Pokemon in this case, yeah, they are very, very bad. And all this because she wanted to preserve their beauty, which goes to show how warped her mind really is. All in all, Lusamine is a very tragic villain because she has a lot of resources, she is very intelligent, had a good partner, and had some kids. But one tragedy can change everything to some people. For Lusamine, it was the loss of her husband and the deadly neurotoxins. Now, depending on which Pokemon game you played, Moon or Ultra Moon or whatever, Ultra Moon has a different ending, but this video is on Lusamine from Sun and Moon. There is a big difference. Despite her malevolent actions, her tragic backstory, and shattered family dynamics that evoke a sense of empathy, and in Pokemon Sun and Moon, there seems to be a redemption going on, but it's left unstated, so we really don't know what happens to her after the events of Sun and Moon. Alright, I think I'm done with the more humanizing villains. Let's get to a villain that is not human at all, and that is Kefka from Final Fantasy VI. Now, Kefka is nothing but an agent of chaos and destruction. Kefka is like the anime version of Joker from Batman. Kefka's insanity has no limits. Just when you think he would do something terrible, he would top it off with something even worse. All because he has a desire to eradicate everything. Why does he want to kill everything? We don't know. My theory is that Kefka is a nihilist, a dangerous nihilist, and just wants to wipe everything off and be nothing. Now, the lack of explanation of why Kefka is the way that he is or does what he does is actually a good thing for Kefka's villainy because he's just chaos. Chaos. There's nothing else to say. He woke up on the wrong side of the bed and decided that everybody must die. He lacks empathy and has sadistic tendencies. And all the suffering, Kefka just views it as entertainment, which that in itself shows you the lack of this guy gives. He loves destruction, but he does play his mind games as well. Because Kefka did actually advance into the ranks where he's second command to the Emperor himself. He does know how to play the long game, and he does know how to be charismatic when he needs to. Now, one point I would like to highlight is that Kefka handed the main characters a big fat L, because he does get what he wants, and he actually destroys the Earth. Not entirely yet, and he does kill a lot of people during this time. And with his destruction of the world, despair reigns supreme. Now, admittedly, this is one of the biggest things Kefka has done, but let's not downplay his other misdeeds. Should I bring up the what Kefka did screen again? So essentially, Kefka, we don't know much about his backstory or anything that's canon. And that's what makes him scary. So I wanted to put Kefka here because he's just evil to be evil. Alrighty, next on the list is Adachi from Persona 4. So with Adachi, looks can be deceiving, and that's for a reason. Adachi was a rookie detective who was incapable of looking at a dead body without throwing up. Not to mention he is very clumsy and a bit of a dork, which makes him unassuming to be a villain. Now there are some moments where I do get confused on, is Adachi faking this or is Adachi being genuine? Because there are moments where he acts silly or dumb to make people not give him a second glance, but then there are moments where he just acts normal-ish, and I'm like, which is the real Adachi? So while he does have a very dorkish personality, he is in reality the main reason why tragedies have been happening throughout Inaba. He is the main perpetrator behind a series of murders, throwing unsuspecting victims into the TV. That's why I was surprised that he threw up for a dead body, because he's literally throwing bodies at night. So either one, he's disassociating so bad where he doesn't know the difference, two, that throw up was fake, or three, it was actually real, but because he ate something bad and not because he's looking at a dead body. The inability to discern the truth is one of the main themes in Persona 4, and it's perfectly encapsulated by Adachi, because he is the personification of not knowing what is true or what is fake. I feel like Atlas made a great villain when it comes to Adachi. Now, Adachi is not a wholly evil person. He has a very bad superiority complex, and it all stems back from how he was raised. His parents never really cared about him, only his grades, resulting in an endless life of studying. And due to his hard work, Adachi feels like he should be entitled to success, which is a very dangerous trait, because just because you're doing good or getting good grades, that doesn't mean you're entitled to anything. You have to go and achieve it. That's something Adachi did not learn. Now, Adachi is not good with women. Surprise Pikachu face. He thinks that a woman is entitled to his love and affections. I don't think I have to say this because y'all are normal, but thinking you're entitled to a woman's affection is very dangerous. Adachi refuses to acknowledge that he could be at fault with his fate, so whenever anything wrong happens, he doesn't have to blame himself. Now, Adachi is kind of different on this list because he does lack charisma, where he doesn't want anyone to suspect him, so he puts on this act of being dorky and clumsy because he doesn't want to draw more attention to him. And also, Adachi's not dumb. He is a detective, so he could do a lot of things in the police department so they won't suspect him. But as the game goes on, you could tell that he's making mistakes, that he's not covering all his bases. His acts are mostly done by impulse. And get this, Adachi is doing what he's doing because he is bored. And he grew very resentful to Dojima for not treating him like the way he thinks he should be treated, when in reality Dojima was just giving him tough love. And he hates the town of Inaba. He thinks it's the middle of nowhere and there's nothing to do, which is kind of right. So combine that all together and you get a narcissistic asshole who does not care about anyone but himself, is willing to put children in danger for his goals. And I know a lot of people who play Persona 4 didn't really like Adachi as a villain, but I found him really compelling because I just hated the guy so much, and that's a good indication of a good villain. Now, the fate of Adachi is different. If you play Persona 4, you would know that there's different endings. So the guy is awful, but he makes for a fantastic villain. Now, the next baddie on this list is Giygas from Earthbound. I haven't played Earthbound in years, but I do remember Giygas and the nightmare field that is his design. Now, in a vacuum, Giygas is just an evil entity that wants to take over the Earth, but he does get fleshed out in the first Earthbound game, Earthbound Beginnings, which makes him out to be a more sympathetic villain. But I'm going to only focus on Earthbound. In the game, it is the reason why many living beings and objects have corrupted, even making Nessa's bratty and obnoxious neighbor, Porky, and makes him into a tyrannical villain. Now, you can make a case that Porky was the main villain all along, but no, Giygas was scheming behind the scenes, and Porky just fell into Giygas' influence. Now, what makes Giygas a infamous villain is because no one knows what Giygas is. His look gives him a cosmic horror kind of vibe to it because nobody knows what it is. It's scary when you don't know what something is. Now, this is ingenious because in Earthbound, Giygas was something that humans cannot comprehend. So the fact that the developers had to make a villain that humans cannot comprehend, they did a great job with how they designed Giygas and built his infamy. Now, Giygas is not your average villain. No, he is different because he feels like an all-encompassing entity. So far the picks on this list have been attributed to one person, but with Giygas, it feels like a combination of everything evil into one entity, which is really, really cool. And due to his popularity, I thought he was a great pick for this list. So that is it for today's video. Tell me your biggest baddies and best villains in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. Please hit that like button if you like, and please consider subscribing if you like RPG content, list videos, things of that like. I would appreciate it. We're on the road to 7K, so whoop whoop. You can reach me on my socials in the description down below. I hope you guys have a fantastic, lovely rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace, peace.